It's Margarita Skype, and in this episode, we're gonna talk about thick bands. Are they for everyone, and why are they in? Let's talk about thick bands. I tell you, about 2 years ago, nobody wanted thick bands. It was all thin bands, as thin as you can. And no matter how many times I've said, listen guys, this is not practical. They're gonna damage. You're gonna go and you're gonna come back and say, you know, Rita, it's curved, it's slightly curved, or it's damaged, and so on and so forth. Every time I've said that, nobody wanted to listen to me. Everybody wanted thin bands because it was super in. Nobody wanted thicker bands. Even for ladies that would do 3-4 carat center stones, when I have urged them to please make a thicker band because it just makes more practical sense, because the top is just so heavy, they just always begged for thin bands. Even for those clients that came back to me repairing the rings 3-4 times, because it can't happen. If you have a high top, which is about 3-4 carats, and it's heavy, it's not gonna work. One, you're gonna have the problem with the ring being twisted, unless you make it so tight that it just sits uncomfortable on your finger. And two, it will band, especially if you are the type of person that goes to gym and lifts heavy stuff and so on and so forth. You can't make super thin bands. I've said it over and over. Nobody listened to me. And now we're in 2024 and we have plenty of clients finally coming and saying, Rita, can I have thicker band? Which to me is super surprising because that was not a thing. So thick bands are in. We know that they're in. It's all over the place. Even the bigger guys like Cartier and Tiffany, they are catching on and making thicker bands for their new collection. So it is in. I have some thick bands right here. I have a sapphire, a tanzanite, and a Ceylon sapphire ring, all with thicker bands, all for those lovers of thick bands. Am I a fan of thick bands? Let's talk about that. Because even though I am a fan of practicality, I am a fan of making the ring so that it's technically, so that it's practically, and so that it's safe. I am after the ring being safe in the long term. That I'm really after. And you know me, if you came to my appointments, I always talk about safety of the ring. Am I necessarily a lover of thick bands? I am not, which will maybe is surprising to some of you. These are some of my thin bands and thick bands. I just wanted to show that difference. It's not big, but it is there. With the thick bands, you can see right away how chunky it is. And with the thin bands, you can see how kind of dainty and more, I want to say more gentle it looks like. Because to me, the thin bands will always be more gentle than the thick. Now, I am a fan of thick bands when it comes to larger top. So if you're going for 2 carats, 3 carats, 4 carats, 5, and so on and so forth, you need one of these guys. You need a thick band to hold that top. 1, because I already said it's practical. 2, because it's not gonna band. And 3, it's not going to be twisted sideways when you wear it. So yes, I am a huge fan of thick bands when you go big. I am not a huge fan of thick bands when you're staying small. For example, to me, if your center stone is 1 carat, such as here, and you're going for thick band, which is what's in right now, I'm gonna tell you, I'm not a big fan. Because to me, it looks a little bit out of proportion. I don't like thick bands with a 1 carat center stone. That's just my 2 cents on it as a designer. I think that the thick bands on a 1 carat is a bit too thick. So this band is about 2.8 millimeters, I wanna say, with about 2.3 or 2.4 millimeter diamonds. To me, it's a bit thick. So if you were going with 1 carat, I would want something a tiny bit thinner, like maybe here, so that it stands out more. However, I still think that this, which is about 1.9, is a fine size. I don't see anything wrong with this band. Again, we're talking about proportion. The center stone here is about 1 carat with a halo. I don't mind this thickness, but I do mind it if it's too big. So for me, I know the thick bands are in. I know we're probably gonna get an exaggerated orders of the thick bands, because once something is in, people just throw it anywhere. So even if you're getting an 80 point or a 1 carat, I know we're gonna get people asking for a thick band, because once it becomes popular, it's just the way people's nature is. We're gonna get a lot of orders for it. But at the same time, I'm going to tell you that I'm still going to be talking about proportion a lot on my appointments, because to me, an engagement ring is all about that proportion. You can go big. You can have a band that's 3 millimeters. I couldn't care less. But if your center stone is almost like your band, then it looks silly to me. Then what's the point? Everything has to be in proportion. Whether something is in or whether something is not in anymore, to me, I don't care what's in and what's out. So if you're going to come to my appointment, you will hear all these boring things that I will talk about, like safety of your ring as #1 priority. It's Margareta Skypen, and I hope you learned something new in this episode. I'll see you in the next one.